Okay, I'm inspired. There's always something that you should do, or you feel you should do. And this is not it, but I don't care. I thank you for being here. God bless and welcome. Every week I try to shine light on this idea that many of us believe in this small community. The prior civilization to ours was much greater, and they're gone. There's so many theories as to what may have happened to them. Most likely it wasn't good. It is such with the case in Rome, and how Rome fell, we are told, politics and lead pipes. But what we see is Rome throughout this realm, in all conditions. The Romanesque Grecian style is found everywhere, and all the styles that I believe belong to this past civilization are everywhere, especially cathedrals. There's nothing more excessive than the cathedral. Every few blocks, sometimes, even in Salt Lake City in this early time period, cathedrals of different religions surrounding the Mormon ones. And was the cathedral really a cathedral? That's what we're going to explore in part today. In my last video I will have touched briefly on this, showing the Point Breeze Gasworks, a combination of research. Here is a website called hiddencityphiladelphia.org, and in 2021 they're fighting to preserve these Philadelphia Gasworks buildings. I love the preservationists, even if they don't really know what they're fighting for. And here we see the Purifying Houses, also known as Church Row, built between 1853 and 1859. 6 years, all this, in that time period. I don't have to remind you of what is available to the average man in 1853. And here this is a utility company, we're being told, just built between this time period. And there's a lot more to this. It's not just these buildings. These are just the ones they're fighting to preserve. A small group of distinctive but long forgotten 19th century Gothic revival buildings at the Point Breeze Gasworks stands amongst the earliest monuments of the manufacturing of gas by a public utility in America, ranking among the most important industrial buildings to survive in Philly. Commissioned 15 years after the Philly Gasworks was founded, they have now been nominated to the Register of Historic Places. And they talk about before this, all the streets were dark, they had to be lit by candle, and they're boasting as some of the first manufacturers of gas in this time period. A survey drawing can be seen here, showing the Gasworks Point Breeze meter house. So I was telling you how I thought clocks are actually meters for the machine, one way or another, tech. And here we're told this is a meter house. Here we go. A cathedral complete with buttresses. In this case, they don't need the buttresses. And one would say, oh, this is just ornamental then, not needed to support the structure. Here we're directed via this website to the Buffalo Gasworks. It was listed on the historic registry, and here it is today. They've built this building around it, and here it is in old times. Not looking much different. Here we see what looks like a little residence, bridge, some cooked out material, some tech back here. Anyway, this is the Fairmount Waterworks, built between 1812 and 1872. It's now a museum and restaurant. So there you go. People love it now because it's over the top. Here we see a lithograph from 1852, the Philly Gasworks. This picture shows the coal stores, the retort house, should be the resort house, lime and coke sheds, lime kilns, purifying houses, gas holders, and railroad tracks. 1852. They don't even have a picture, just a lithograph. Pretty over the top and modern in every regards for this time period. Looks like they've thrown wooden planks up here. I don't know. And here we can see these tanks in the back. And I don't know why. They just have to try to sell this idea to us. While linked originally with religious architecture in the 19th century, the Gothic style was also employed to ennoble secular projects, including the Eastern State Penitentiary, built between 1821 and 1836, the Episcopal Hospital, built in 2 years, 1860 to 1862, the Brooklyn Bridge, and here's the penitentiary. We've looked at it before. Looking just as weathered in the earliest photos we see of it. And here is the crown jewel, a glass negative from 1881. Like, it's so astonishing. And it is astonishing. These towers, 8 or 9, this stupid wooden fence in front of it. This thing is just massive, I could tell. Much bigger than it may seem in this photo. Glass negative, 1881. I mean, what is going on around here? Nothing. And what do they say? That this is a gasometer. A meter, a gauge, a gas gauge. Here you go. Old world gas gauge. And now when you couple this with this, a castle cathedral right up next to it, it begs to ask, what is a cathedral? What are all cathedrals? Unless, of course, it makes any sense to you why this 1850s gas utilities company looks like a cathedral. Or was this repurposed to suit their needs? I tend to think that it was a utility, especially where they're still using it as such today. However, it may have been hydrogen gas. As we know, all the beneficial power sources of the past have been suppressed. Even Tesla's work, whether he was legit or not. And when I say that, I mean, did he simply reverse engineer all the technology of the old world as opposed to invent everything? But besides that point, I think all the things that are attributed to this man, Tesla, are good working models. Hydrogen is an excellent working model that has been suppressed. And I think it's no different. Today we're just looking at a gasworks company. But what about if we look at a water company? This is the Chicago Water Works public utility building, still standing today, at the foot of Chicago Avenue. And today I appreciate these explanations, more so than telling us it was a castle or a cathedral. No, there are few examples like these that are still functioning as utilities, is my point. And I think this lends evidence to the idea that all these grand, over-the-top structures of the past were also employed in some utility aspect, and beautification was not spared, even in the structures that were not necessarily made as public spaces. And it makes sense. We all have to look at the things around us. I'm surrounded by oil wells, and you can tell these companies don't give a damn about the eyesore that they create. And ornamentation might only make up 5% of the structure, and yet it makes all the difference, lending to the idea that the way of living was much more conducive to well-being in the past. And when it comes to our narrative, it's actually the complete opposite. People arrive and they struggle, we are told. But if you ask me, it looks like a big party. These people just living amongst all of this in an early time period? Now, I have no doubt that people struggled. And both of my grandmothers told me how hard things used to be, waiting in lines for bread and butter, and I believe them. But clearly they came after the times of prosperity. The times when utility companies were built like this, not bread and butter line times. So one more little thing I'd like to show is something I was checking out on this map tool. And where are we? We're in New Jersey. I wasn't born too far away from here, just down here. But if we go to the point of New Jersey here, we have this Fort Hancock. We've looked at the star forts over here, of course. Fort J Let's have a little quick zoom in. There's Fort J. And of course over here we have the Statue of Liberty, also sitting on a star fort. Really massive structure for Mr. or Mrs. Liberty here. But if we come back here to the edge of New Jersey, we see this Fort Hancock on this artificial land here. We see this Something Hook Beach. I don't think I'm allowed to say that. And then we zoom to the end of the island here, and we see some ruins. Here we have the 9-gun, I don't think I can say that either, battery. And really cool. I like when they call them batteries. And I think it's appropriate. Here we were just looking at utilities, and these are stations really advanced. I mean, I can't tell you how awesome this is. This is some old concrete and brick buildings and just the ruins. And I would love a little house like this. I mean, not this big, but this is better than anything. And it's just sitting out here. Let's click on the picture. There you go. And it was days ago. Perhaps my zest has grown cold, but I'm still absolutely fascinated. And here we can see one just in front of the others. This one is really cool. They call this Battery Potter. And we could see stupid little structures around here, which are very nice little structures. But they give us a comparison of the massiveness of this one. And I like how this entryway, this little mini castle entryway, is still here. And in my opinion, there was an entire building on top of all of these. We're just seeing what was most likely undemolishable. They don't offer us a picture, or do they? There she is. Boom. Look at this. Love it. And it's absolutely everywhere out here. I spent what felt like a couple hours down here. But anyway, this one's called Battery Granger. And I should just say that I don't think these were for cannons like we're told. These are going to have also some kind of utility application with these plug holes, these little tiny mini amphitheaters. And amphitheaters will be the same thing, of course, too. You can see one here buried in the trees. So I guess I'm just getting a little off topic, but I do hope you've enjoyed. Perhaps I'll jump back in for a bonus. Okay, part 2. I thought I would discuss this book a little bit. It's pretty heavy and kind of shaped itself. Anyone who does this research knows there's 10,000 elements to it. And if you were trying to explain it to somebody, it'd be very difficult. It's difficult to make a video encapsulating the whole subject. And it takes time. For many of us, it's been years. Like we've been building a case. And that's the way this book is presented. It's a case for history. And if it's well received, it'll be the first of many. David has employed the use of AI to track down sources, something that I've been dreaming of since I understood what AI could do. I think it's still the early stages, and that's exactly what has taken place to help make this book what it is. It's full of sources. As you can see here, the Flood Building in San Francisco began construction in 1903 and was completed in 1904. It was designed by architect Albert Peasy. This source is from Lotkin, 2002. And I think that's what makes this book an irrefutable case for the fact that our history has been falsified. I mean, just the history of this building has been falsified. Are you kidding me? 1903 to 1904? The Flood Building? But what this book does is break down the absolute facts of what they're telling us with the help of the AI, plugging in certain formulas to help us make sense of the stories, the tall tales that we've been told and sold as history. And this book is written like a court case. David was in the military, he's been a professor, and he's a private investigator. And he brings all of this to the table for unraveling our history. Here we can see the Flood Building. And really, I just want to read you this book, but I'm not sure how I want to share it. By the time I release this video, it'll be pretty close to the publish date. Here we can see the Central Tower, or the Call Building. It was constructed in San Francisco in 1898, within a time frame of approximately 1 year. Here the source, Corbett, 1979. And oftentimes, the comments that these sources make are absolutely appropriate, serving as witnesses to this case. Here, for example, Lewis in 2007. Constructed of steel frames with terracotta facade, the building's intricate details and large scale stand out compared to other early skyscrapers. And this is actually just the end of the book. I'm just teasing a little. This part of the book is giving a snapshot of one-year wonders in San Francisco. Here we can see the Palace Hotel, constructed in 1875 within a span of 1 year. Lotkin, 2003. The footprint of the building is 600,000 square feet. Built in a year. Look at the little horse and carriages down here. Columns going all the way up. Here we can see the inside, the bar. And here we can see the inside. Just how massive. Outdoing any modern mall today. I'm not even sure if they have malls anymore. And look at this, the horse and carriage on the inside. Very extravagant. San Francisco. Early San Francisco. Here, another view of it, and another mind blower right next to it. The San Francisco Public Library. It was originally built in 1890 within a time frame of 1 year. Roberts, 1995. And at the end of each chapter are all the sources. Here we can see a building standing today, the Hibernia Bank Building, constructed in 1892, and the construction process was reportedly completed within a single year. Johnson, 1996. 40,000 square feet, made of sandstone and marble. Smith, 2002. And going back to 10,000 different directions, one must hone in on something to make a point. And what this book really does is hone in on this city in great detail. It didn't originally start out that way, but it kind of unfolded, and a great case has been presented for San Francisco. Such a great example, because it is such a new city. 1849. One of the newest cities in the world, similar to Salt Lake City, which has the same footprint and unusual historical narrative. And oftentimes I and other creators discuss the impossibilities, but without sitting down and laying it out, crunching numbers, it's very difficult to make a case, especially in a video. Sometimes I have, as you'll recall, crunched numbers, especially with the missing 1,000 years of time, and it's very helpful. But my videos are a mess, and this is really nice to have something laid in stone, something physical. I'm very excited as a reference for myself and for all. Here we can see the James Flood Mansion. Earlier we were looking at the Flood building, and this baby was built in 1886, and construction was reportedly completed within the same year. O'Brien, 1992. So even O'Brien here is raising an eyebrow. He doesn't want to come out and say it, but he says reportedly, which emphasizes his concerns for these facts as we're given. And he hasn't looked at hundreds of buildings that were also reportedly completed in 1 year. Here we can see the front of that building, which is pretty modest as far as size, but very ornate. Now this is a style of hotel we see all over the place. Every city has one. These little breezeways, very classic. And here in Frisco, the St. Francis Hotel was constructed in 1850, in less than a year. Source, Hart, 1991. In less than a year. That's history. So 1,000 people arrive in 1849, and in 1850, less than a year, here we go. And this book makes the case that we wish we had in this community. The absolute facts. And this isn't it. This is kind of whipped cream, this chapter, which is why I thought it was appropriate to share. Here we can see a little Corinthian column, obelisk. And the building operated for less than a year when it was destroyed in a fire in 1850, source Smith, 2005. It was rebuilt in 1 year, destroyed again in an earthquake, and rebuilt again. Come on. 3 rebuilds? Here we can see the horse and buggies lined up. What are they doing? Going to the theater. 1850. The Jenny Lind Theater. She was constructed in 1850 in 1 year. Hart is the source, 1991. Driven by the relentless belief that a high-end theater was what the emerging gold rush town needed. It then burnt down and was rebuilt in 1851 in 1 year. This building in the picture is the 3rd building. Smith, 2005. Oh, we're not done. After failing immediately as a theater in 1852, it became the San Francisco City Hall. Until the early 1870s, when it fell into disrepair. Source, Eisenberg, 2005. So you see Eisenberg here is even baffled. I can tell in his tone. So built as a theater for 1,000 gold rushers, rebuilt 3 times, then it turns into the city hall for a short time. This was kind of a test. I'm having a ball, and we'll go a little deeper in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you next week.